Let me ask you something. Have you guys actually seen what this fire golem can do? Let's take a look at his passive real quick. Fire skin increases her resistance, reflects 40% of the damage, and has a 40% chance of poisoning the enemy attacker. Considering how the mechanics of the benefit dungeon work, the boss having single target attacks, can this unit stay alive long enough in order to get the win? Let's go ahead and find out. What's going on, everybody? It's Childish. We're back at it again with another video for Might and Magic Elemental Guardians. Today we are heading into the benefit dungeon. We're at stage 8 to see if our little 3-star mini fire golem can live up to its name. As you guys can see, this is the first time I think on our channel that we've go ahead and showcased the benefit dungeon. This is one of the 3 dungeons that is available in the game. If I had to make an argument for which one you would focus on, this would definitely be the one at the very end. I feel like it's going to go Wrath, Strength, and then benefit dungeon. Out of this dungeon, if you guys haven't taken a look at the glyphs that you can obtain, it's going to be Vitality, Defense, Endurance, and Immunity. And while the first 3 have their own place when it comes to raw stats and you're looking at specific stats you're looking to improve on your monsters, I think Immunity is going to be the one that everyone's going to shoot for, especially for the PvP aspect. But before we get into all that stuff, let's go ahead and focus on the task at hand here. The goal is to take down this boss with what we currently have. As you can see, we're running a mono element team alongside the Fire Golem to force the Golem in order to attack him. Now, if you guys haven't seen him, he has a passive that gives him a heal by 50% when he goes under 25% health. His second skill does a good amount of damage, but it is a single target attack that goes every 2 turns and has a 30% chance to attack again. Then his first skill is just a basic attack that deals great damage. So he can hit hard, but again, the fire golem is not only able to mitigate that damage, but take that damage and reflect it back onto the boss. And in addition to that, he has the opportunity to provide the poison aspect, so we can get some damage over time. This boss does not have any kind of immunity, so this works really, really good. Alongside probably like a heal block or whatnot, you can definitely work this boss down and use the heal block in order to take him down without having to deal with his passive. Now, we're going to go ahead and kind of focus on, I think we're just going to allow him to focus on the boss. The thing of it is that since we're running a mono element team, it allows us to take on the ad as well as the boss. And essentially we can just, once the ad is down, we can focus down that boss and not have any issue. This particular stage, we have 2 of the ads that provide poison over time. So the fixated damage is really not that bad considering where we're at, but I would imagine as we move up to benefit 9 and benefit 10, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle. But I think the strategy is just pretty standard. Like you can definitely get away with a mono element team and then use a specific element, whether it's fire, air, to go ahead and tank that boss in order to get the job done. And as you can see, he is literally a 3-star tank, and we were able to get it done with essentially a mono element team and just running him at the lead there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the units that we currently have in our team, talk about the composition and how it was able to work. Now keep in mind that because of how his is set up here, we were definitely able to get away with a little bit more, considering the fact that he's not providing a lot of AoE damage. It's all simply single target damage, and so it was nice to be able to control that. Okay, taking a look at the fire golem, he is sitting here literally at 3-star max. We're running a full vitality set. Now keep in mind, full disclaimer, I do not recommend running them at a 3-star. I would definitely, get them up there in the 4-star and improve the glyphs. But I just want to show you how even with the lack of quality, we can use his passive. We can use certain mechanics of some of these unique creatures in the game in order to take down the boss here. And this is one of those that you could definitely fit into it. So he has an AoE, he has an attack break as well as a taunt. And then, of course, his regular skill is just obviously a basic skill. But when you break it down, he has the opportunity to get a slow for the first skill based on his max HP. And then he also has an opportunity to stun them for 1 turn. I'm really a big fan of this unit here. Obviously, there's a couple of other units that we can throw in there. But let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the team so you guys can get an idea of the stats that we're currently running. We'll start out with the unit that everybody should be incorporating, the Water Arcane Bird, aka the Frost Simurf. I can't even pronounce that. But here's our stats right now. I'm running a double precision set. I talked about this early on. You guys are seeing the evolution of this unit. I literally started at double vitality, then haste vitality, then haste precision, then double precision. The goal was to get a certain amount of effective HP, but then as I progressed into Rat Dungeon, I needed to go ahead and change up my glyphs so that I can add myself a decent amount of accuracy. And if there was one unit on your team that needs a fairly high amount of accuracy, this is the one to do it, considering he can reduce the attack bar, provide that attack break, and provide an AoE slow for your party here, or on the boss there. So really strong unit indeed. The Winter Druid, again, this one doesn't need any introduction. You've already seen it here. We're running a appeasement to get a little bit more value since she has 2 different heals. And then we're running meditation sets to reduce those cooldowns so we can get our heals available when we need it here. She's completely maxed out, so I'm able to get away with a solo healer combined with the other forms of damage mitigation that we're bringing in from the Water Arcane Bird. She works really good. She synergizes well with a lot of those basic units that we've kind of recommended in some of the earlier Rat Dungeon sages. So really nice unit. Down the road, I'll be looking to probably get her on a double meditation set when I can, but right now she's sitting at a pretty good place. Now, one of the units that I did not think I was going to incorporate was the Freezing Basileus here. So this is actually a unit that I made early on in the game. Out of all the Basileus, this was the first one to get, and I was really a big fan of it, given the fact that it's the first 2-star creature that had a 2-turn freeze with a 100% activation rate. While this doesn't really provide you a lot of value per se on the end stage boss, it really does help you take some time, get yourself a little turn advantage on those stages leading up to it because of that 2-turn freeze. Now again, I say that very lightly because if you think about the ads, and the ads that are going to be coming into play when we move up to hard, the poison ones were easy to deal with, but the ads that we're going to be dealing with on benefit 9 to benefit 10 are definitely a little bit harder. So having this 2-turn freeze is really, really nice, and you can definitely save yourself a lot of trouble, a lot of lack of, a lot of RNG when those bosses are not providing either the beneficial effects for the boss or the debuffs to go ahead and allow the boss to do more damage onto you. So he's a really fun unit to use. If you already have him 4-star max, you might as well give him a go and play around with him. The next one that we'll take a look at is the Water Imp here. Now this is another 2-star creature that I've been holding on to ever since I pulled it. I've only pulled one, and I'm glad I was able to do so. He has an ability that provides 2 sets of poisons for 2 turns, as well as a beneficial blocker for 1 turn. Now, this is not going to really play a big role in the benefit dungeon, considering the fact that the boss doesn't have any kind of beneficial blocker for you, but he is a really, really good unit for TOT, but can definitely be used in multiple aspects of the game, and most notably this dungeon. Why is that? I feel like his 3rd skill really shines alongside with this 2nd skill here. You have the ability to go ahead and increase the duration of negative effects for 1 turn. So, and this is a 3-turn cooldown. Not only is this skill really, really strong, when we think about how the Fire Golem works, providing a 40% chance to get those poisons, you're reflecting the damage, but the biggest thing is the poisons. You're putting the poisons on through this Water Nymph, or Water Imp, in addition to that Fire Golem, right? So you're getting multiple chances to extend the life of those debuffs here, making it just that much easier to take down. One of the things that I recommended to at the beginning of this video is that since this boss doesn't have immunity, then Heal Block is going to be really, really nice to counter him. However, I was not running any kind of Heal Block simply for the fact that I didn't have a water unit that had the Heal Block built as of right now. But as you guys can see, the benefit of this 2nd skill, providing all the extension of the debuffs, allowed me to do so much damage to the boss via the poisons that I was able to keep up with the 15% heal over time that he gets when he is lower than 25% health here. So it is a really, really nice skill. Again, the cooldown, I mean, the quality of the skill plus the lower cooldown really is what makes it shine. And when you start to glyph it up with a decent amount of speed, you provide that AoE slow from the Water Arcane Bird, you're just be able to cycle so many skills here. So I'm a big fan of it. So those were the first 4 units that we use. And now as far as alternatives for water ones here, one of the ones that I did not play around with, but I definitely feel that he can fill the role here, the water. If I can showcase my water units right now, the water Ice Knight or the Water Stone Guard. I feel like this one could get thrown in there as a substitute, essentially as a +1 for your water units. You're always going to have the Water Arcane Bird, right? And if you are lacking on like a healer per se, then the Water Nymph is going to be like a 3-star unit, like the Water Treant or the Winter Druid. If you don't have one of those, then the Water Nymph is a very good choice to do if you want to incorporate that. But when it comes to +1 units, if you've already incorporated the Ice Knight for a farmer, maybe you're using it for a farmer, maybe you're playing around with it in the arena defense. Obviously, this is going to be a really good unit just simply for the fact that it's going to do a decent amount of damage and it's going to be able to tank, just some of the stages leading up to the boss there. So he's a nice one to kind of throw around there for the +1. I'm a big fan of him. And then, of course, like we said before, the Water Nymph is another good alternative for your Winter Druid if you don't have them. But literally, pretty much any 2-star to 3-star water healer is going to be a nice change, or going to be a nice addition if you don't have the Winter Druid. I prefer the Winter Druid because of the fact that it provides the defense buff alongside the heal in order to help me out. And keep in mind that even though my Fire Golem is running Vitality Glyphs, right? He has a ton of HP, not too much defense. If I were to play around with his glyphs a little bit, I'd have a little bit of a hybrid to reduce his HP pool, have a higher defense, stat, and I will go ahead and use him paired with the Winter Druid, who provides that flat heal, so I can get a little bit more value out of it. Now, keep in mind that we're using the Fire Golem, right? We're using the Fire Golem for the tank, but again, the water units have the elemental advantage towards the boss, so you can essentially use any other. You can use either a fire unit or an air unit, right? One of the recommendations that has come from quite a bit of people in the community as far as an alternative tank, if you have him, hopefully you do. He is a farmable unit. This is a great option to go for. The Air Golem, as you guys know, he has the second 2-turn cooldown, 100% uptime on that second skill, providing the healing effect bonus as well as a defense buff. If you are not running the healer that has a defense buff or some kind of, like, if you're not running the Water Treant or the Winter Druid, then I do feel like this is a great option for you in order to incorporate. Again, he's providing defense buff with himself. So, I mean, it's for the party, but obviously it's going to be able to help out himself. So even though you won't get the added value of the extra poisons or the reflective damage, I mean, honestly, it's all about mitigating the damage so that the rest of your units can go ahead and take him down and get the job done. Again, you'll have to consider incorporating some heal block if you're not doing a lot of poison damage in your team, but if you are looking for a tank, then this is another option to do. He has that attack bar manipulation on that 3rd skill, which is really nice and does damage based on its own defense. So again, this is one of those that I would build if I did not have the Fire Golem as an option for that tank spot. I'm trying to see if there was any units that I wanted to kind of throw in there. I guess the one thing to kind of point out is going back to the elemental advantage versus disadvantage. I think that there's a decent amount of fire units that can be thrown in there, but again, the more fire units you have, the RNG that comes into play when it comes to that boss, taking them down. And considering the fact that his second skill with a 2-turn cooldown has a chance to do the additional turn, the last thing you want to do is get hit hard when you don't have any kind of shelter or defense buff, and then get the additional turn to hit him again. More often than not, he is going to, if he doesn't one-shot the unit, he's going to, if he gets that additional turn, he can take out that unit, and if you don't have any kind of revive mechanic, it's going to be hard. So if you don't force him to attack one specific unit, forcing everybody else to be a water element, and then bringing that fire or air unit, it's going to be really hard to control the amount of damage that you're taking. So now let's say that you have some really strong fire units that you want to incorporate in your team, but you don't have the water ones here. But let's say you have a really strong earth defender or some kind of an earth tank that can mitigate the damage. You can definitely consider bringing that unit in, but hopefully between the synergy of your team, you have a lot of different mechanics in order to reduce the overall damage in order to get it done. Now, this might be a little far-fetched here, but let's take a look at this 3-star unit. If we can find it, it's kind of hiding over here. I have the Juggernaut. I don't know if I showcase it there. Let's go ahead and see if we can pull it up. So the Fire Juggernaut is a pretty interesting one here. If you guys haven't seen this one, if the HP falls below 40%, it spreads the damage received among all allies and increases its own attack. So, obviously you're going to look to get this relatively tanking, and if, let's say, your buffs are not up, and he does get a chance to do some damage here, being able to spread the damage across the board is really nice. And again, if you built him in a relatively tanky fashion, you know, with emphasis on that defensive mechanic, you know, a good amount of defense here, I think you're going to get a little bit more value out of this. And obviously, the attack buff is really nice. These actions that, or these different types of buffs that come into play, it doesn't have to be up per se. It's a passive. So once you get in that situation, let's say he hits you and then he gets an additional turn. If you, that first hit, get yourself in the under 40% mark, like let's say he gets the additional turn, gets lucky, then again you're gonna be able to spread out that damage, and that is quite a bit of damage that could be soaked by the rest of your party. That's pretty much it, guys. The benefit dungeon, it's one of those fun dungeons that I actually had some pretty good time with, but it's one of those ones that I have not really focused on all too much, just for the simple fact that I feel like it's something that we're going to be focused on in the later parts of the game. But I did want to just kind of have a fun little video, taking in our 3-star fire mini golem and seeing if we can outlast the boss, and we were able to do so. If you guys enjoyed this video, or if you learned anything from this video, please give it a thumbs up. Did I say please give it a thumb up? Please give it a thumbs up, okay? And I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care.